Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, and welcome to Dynasty Dumbies, your home for the latest in college football news in action. We are your hosts, Tony and Hunter, and we're just going to jump straight into our weekly storylines before we jump into our weekend review or recap.
Yeah, starting it off as usual with the Heisman hopefuls. A bit of a change on the lines this time, with John Mintier, Oklahoma's quarterback, being out after a hand injury. He was starting the week as the Heisman frontrunner, but now he's fallen off the boards. Indiana's Fernando Mendoza plus 650 is the new favorite, followed by Oregon's quarterback Dante Moore, and then rounded out with Miami's Carson Beck at plus 1200.
Yeah, and then another name that's slowly creeping back into here is Jeremiah Smith, who was at one point early season, preseason polls and whatnot, a contender for the Heisman, but after a kind of slower start for Ohio State, he's kind of slowly creeping back in here, and he's sitting at plus 1,400, along with Georgia quarterback Gunnar Stockton, who's also at plus 1,400. And then a couple of other players here that are still in the mix is Texas A&M quarterback Marcel Reed and Tennessee quarterback Joey Aguilar were very much still in the mix. If they can keep their seasons going, I could see them jumping into that top three at some point.
For sure. I got to say, though, I don't know if I agree with Jeremiah Smith being up as high as he is again. I am actually looking at TCU's quarterback Josh Hoover, who has been jumping up. He's sitting outside the top names we just read, but I think he has a good line on him. I would be taking him over Jeremiah Smith. Not that Jeremiah Smith isn't a great player, but just think that I don't think he's going to be doing a Heisman this year, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think a name that I still think should be in consideration is still Baylor quarterback Sawyer Robertson. I think that dude is still slinging the ball, still playing very well. Honestly, with
True.
their teams not getting wins, obviously is always going to hurt, but it's still pretty early in the season, and they still got a lot of conference play ahead of them that I think they can bounce back, and he can definitely get his name back into that mix.
He's a guy that we should definitely be looking at too. I know that they're they're sitting at 2-2, but he has been dangerous. If he can start churning it on the ground too, as well through the air, Baylor's still going to be a team to watch out for.
Absolutely.
Speaking of things that we've been looking out for this week, something that sparked a lot of debate was Paul Feinbaum's comments on ESPN. If you didn't catch it, Paul Feinbaum more or less threatened or gave an ultimatum to the College Football Playoff Committee when he said that while he had no power, unnamed influential people would punish the playoff committee for not properly rewarding the SEC. Now, that's not a direct quote, but that is the gist of the things. I mean, this is absolutely crazy to come out and just say that if you don't bend to the SEC's will, then you will be punished. It's ludicrous.
It's absolutely absurd and just uncalled for. I mean, to even have the audacity to go on any sort of show and say that is insane. I mean, we know that he loves his SEC bias. He's been like that for forever now. But to go on there and say to the committee specifically, like, oh, you better watch out. Like, if you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing, which is favor the SEC, then there's people that, that might have a say in this that are going to do something. Because I know there has been, I guess, rumor of potential SEC and Big Ten like kind of trying to make their own thing because they felt like that they're almost too good for it now.
Yeah, I agree. It's clear to me that the media and objectively has an investment with the SEC. And if you don't see it, it's because you don't want to. It is very clear that the media has an invested financial interest with ESPN having a large stake in the SEC as a conference, that they are going to prop it up. The reason why Feinbaum, brought this up was that the SEC announced that they're switching to 9 conference games, plus you have to have a 10th Power 4 non-conference game. His argument was that the College Football Playoff Committee this year said that it was going to prioritize more metrics centered around strength of record over pure record. So they think now that because the SEC is so strong, that they're going to be rewarded for it. That 3-loss teams are going to be in over 1-loss teams. And the metrics they use are skewed in favor of the SEC. ESPN's FPI, out of the top 20 teams, 10 of them are SEC teams. You're telling me more than half the conference is a top 20 team?
Yeah,
that's just insane.
No, it's absurd. And going based off of the ESPN FPI, is the ludicrousy that they have Alabama at 3. I mean,
yeah.
It doesn't get much crazier than that. Even after their abysmal loss to Florida State in the first week, and then Texas's loss to Ohio State in the first week, they were still top 5, top 3 teams at some point.
Dude, Florida State isn't even top 20. The only ACC in the top 20 is Miami.
It's very clear that there's some form of bias here, and it's just absurd. I mean, there's teams their highest ranked. They got Notre Dame sitting in here at 1 and 2 above a Vanderbilt, albeit SEC, but still above a Vanderbilt, above a BYU, Texas Tech. They have Nebraska ranked in here. I mean, let's be honest here. There's some stuff that is very skewed with this, and you can tell that the media is trying to push some stuff so that they can get the stuff that they have money invested in into the limelight where people are going to watch. I mean, people sit down. I'm one of them. I sit down. I watch that playoff ranking show, and I go along with it because we all have our opinions on it. And especially when it comes to Selection Sunday, when they're actually picking, it's a massive thing. And people tune in. They watch. They want to know who's going to be able to play for that national champion or the chance to play for the national championship. So it's like, what is the point now? This money is being thrown into these conferences with these media deals, and it's just skewing absolutely everything that does with it.
For sure. It's the hypothetical, well, they're better teams. Well, the reason why the SEC is being said that they have all the better teams is because that's what the media is saying. Exactly what you were saying. It's incredibly frustrating because they play this incredibly tough schedule. Well, that was just dictated by what people think is tough, and there's no rhyme or reason for it. They just select them as a ranked team. I mean, the idea that games on the field shouldn't matter, why even play the games at this point?
Yep. Yeah, it's getting to the point now where it's going to turn into, there's no point in playing these games unless it's, an SEC team playing an SEC team. Even at that point, I mean, like you were saying earlier, where you could have a 3-loss SEC team get in over a 1-loss, Big Ten team for, you're telling me that, if Oregon loses to Penn State, they don't win the conference championship, they're probably going to throw in an SEC team over them purely because they don't win that conference. And not even to go into the Big 12 and the G5 stuff, what's that going to mean for them?
Exactly. It flabbergasts me. I will say the SEC has over the last 20 years, some of the best couple teams. But to insinuate because Georgia and Alabama have been that great that the rest of the conference is that great, just because those teams are, doesn't mean the likes of Kentucky are any better than the likes of a Northwestern or a BYU. I mean, BYU to me is way better. That's not even a great example, but a Colorado. I don't see a difference in teams like that. Sure, the Alabamas and Georgias have dominated, but those other SEC teams have not. They're just riding the coattails of essentially Nick Saban.
Pretty much. And
it's frustrating, and how even it comes down to how recruits are looked at.
Mm-hmm.
If a 4-star recruit commits to a smaller team or a lesser team, quote unquote, than an Alabama, oftentimes on ESPN's own records, their star rating gets dropped. It's insane. And if you commit to Alabama, your star rating might even go up. And that's how they dictate these teams have all these power to begin. Just because you have all the recruits doesn't make a great team.
Exactly. I mean, this is something that has to be taken care of sometime soon, hopefully in the near future, where you get these people like Paul, where they're saying all these things, pushing all these narratives to the media, and it just causes issue to the other conferences, other teams, and whatnot. But with the way that college football is going right now, with the rest of the country catching up to these SEC teams. I mean, it's the big deal with it, where now teams are legally allowed to pay their players, and look what's happening is, you're not seeing the dominance from the same three teams anymore. So it's like, maybe it has something to do with that. So hopefully, the sport can almost correct itself in that sense. I mean, we're already seeing a shift in the power scales now, where it's not purely SEC dominance, where these other conferences are putting out teams that are very much worth consideration over these SEC teams, and the rest of the SEC is catching up as well. Like you said, it's not just Alabama, Georgia anymore. You got Tennessee's finally looking like a good team again. Texas A&M's finally looking like a good team again. Where like these SEC teams are trying to now take that
oil
spot.
Money.
Yeah,
exactly.
They're good old oil money. Not even talking about Texas Tech. I mean, you want to talk about oil money? Those guys are spending. Yeah. But these other teams are finally catching up. So I'm hoping that we get to that point where you can't even. I really hope at some point it gets to where like conferences, you look at them, but just because it's a certain conference over another, you're like, oh, I've got to give it to them because it's SEC over Big 10 or Big 12 sort of thing.
I couldn't agree anymore. You shouldn't just get the advantage because of the patch sitting on your jersey. It's so much more than that. It is super frustrating to watch. Conference realignment has helped to it. It's just the state of college football, and it's sad to say that it's never going to go back to how it may have been previously, even with the BCS era. Really I would say pre-2011, even though there were some teams that had already started moving. It hadn't gotten as crazy, but it's sad to see.
It's going to be hard to ever get back to those sort of things with how...
It most likely won't.
Yeah, the way the money's run now, the media rights is a big proponent in it now, where you get all this money for purely playing in a conference just for the media sake. So it's going to be hard to get anything close to that, but you just got to hope that maybe...
I think we're closer to Alabama, Ohio State, and Michigan joining the NFL than we are getting back to that.
They would still push for something like that to happen, especially Paul Feinbaum. I can't stand that dude. I'm not going to lie. I cannot. I think he's a horrible person for the sport right now, especially. So he likes the SEC as much as Mel Kiper likes Shadur Sanders in the draft. So we'll have to see how this eventually pans out with him and the SEC in the playoffs. And let's see if, his words end up meaning anything, or if they were just useless and just boneless, spineless threats to try and push his own sort of...
Well, it's not him. He wasn't making a threat, man. It's just unnamed influential people.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and call bullshit on that. So I don't believe it for a second. So
I don't either.
Yeah, but we'll change topic for now. We could talk about that for hours.
Yeah, that could be
we're gonna jump right in
episode.
Yeah, we're gonna jump right into just a quick reminder on our rankings and where we stand. If you want a full breakdown of them or a more detailed breakdown, go check out our previous episode where we had talked about some of our movement in it and explained what we did. Just again, always going to do this, go over the criteria for how we do our rankings, where head-to-head is a key factor. How teams play against each other will always matter. The results on the field take precedence over anything. We do not consider hypotheticals. Overall team vibe of a lot of stuff and how they rock and how we rock with them. And our group voting is AP style, where 5 total people submit their ballots, and we decide our overall top 25 from that.
You can really see how our criteria aligns to what we were just talking about.
Yeah, it's definitely telling of how we take games and how we analyze and whatnot.
Exactly. Well, just to go over my rankings briefly, my top 5 doesn't change. Miami, Ohio State, Oregon, Penn State, and Georgia. And then I have Texas, Indiana jumping up a lot. Florida State jumps too, as I have LSU sliding just a little bit. Not necessarily because I think they're a bad team. I just think these other teams have been more impressive as of late. We got a big clog here in the middle where a lot of these teams from about Oklahoma to Texas are in a slog, and really these next couple of weeks will be good. And the bottom here, I have Maryland entering, TCU and USC and Memphis, so a bunch of new cats to the table here. But still thinking that these teams have a lot to prove throughout the season. These can easily change any given week.
Yeah, every single game, can decide numerous things. Like both of us, having Indiana jump up pretty drastically after destroying Illinois, and Illinois just completely dropping out altogether. On I think just about everyone in our group did that. So it just goes to show that one game can drastically change how our rankings go. Like you, my top 5 basically stays the same, except I had Oregon move up 1 slot over Georgia. I had LSU slide down a little bit as well. Like I said, I believe their wins are starting to not look as good as initially we had thought. And then same as you, my middle is sort of clogged right now with a lot of teams where any given Saturday they could move up a spot, move down a spot purely because they won by more or they looked more impressive sort of thing. I did bring back BYU. They are back in the top 20. I have them at 18, and I will not be forgetting them, albeit considered if they do not blow the season up and just completely collapse. I have USF still sitting at 20. I still think they're a pretty decent team. USC moved up, and then I had Memphis, North Texas, and TCU join in on mine. So that's basically what ours looks like. We're going to jump into the AP compared to our group rankings here. And as you can see, AP, still a lot of controversy with them and some of their ballots and whatnot. And then our group ranking together, we had a decent bit of some movement there. So still some teams, our top 5 has been relatively the same. And then, again, middle of the pack is for all of ours is basically close to the same, with a couple of teams being off by 1 or 2 slots. But the big thing is we're having some more teams join in, and we're having a lot less teams receiving votes. We're starting to come a little more compact in with what
more
teams
of a
we are ranking.
consensus.
Yes, we're having a better consensus on what teams we are voting on. I believe only, what was it, like 4 other teams received votes this week from us?
I believe it might have been 5. But yes, a big cut down from what we've been experiencing the last few weeks. Big movements here was Indiana and Texas Tech. They take the biggest leaps, as we discussed earlier. While we do have kind of a SEC slog in the middle with A&M, Oklahoma, Vanderbilt, Ole Miss, Tennessee, and Mississippi State. Lots of different opinions on which of the SEC teams are the best, so a lot of different ones are receiving votes. So really, this is just a good comparison between the 2 polls, where we do have the group of 5 in there with USF and Memphis. We've discussed before, we think the American's fairly strong, so expect that to keep moving. But before we drain too much of your time, let's jump into this week's game slate. A little bit of an overview on what games are going to be happening. As we're recording this right now, Army has taken on the Pirates of ECU. ECU is up 21-6, so plenty of time left, but we'll see what happens. Army had an almost incredible comeback last week versus North Texas.
Yep.
But tomorrow's main headlining game is Florida State's traveling to University of Virginia, UVA, for a Friday night showdown. UVA has looked pretty good this year. Florida State, we know what they are. So good chance if UVA can show up and maybe get off a huge upset. And then Wake Forest is going to be looking to do the same when Georgia Tech comes to town as well.
Yeah, Georgia Tech, riding real high right now, and I think they will for probably majority of the rest of the season, albeit, every you say this to every team, but depending on health, we know that Haynes King was dealing with stuff earlier in the season, so if he can stay healthy and all that team, that Georgia Tech team is going to be one to mess with. So, but another team that finally got their first win and plays in, you could say this for the rest of their season. Notre Dame playing in another must-win game at Arkansas, who has been somewhat decent, this season. They have put up at least 28 points in the first half of all of their games this season, which
That's
is
impressive.
Absurd. It's very impressive, but it's that second half for them that they really start to teeter off.
Got to play a complete game.
Yeah, it's not a tale of for them it's quite literally a tale of two halves. So they got to be able to put it all together in 4 quarters, and they could be a really decent team. But moving on, Syracuse is hosting Duke in an ACC showdown, while albeit Syracuse has lost their starting quarterback. He tore his Achilles, unfortunately, and that dude was balling. So that's very unfortunate to see. And then Pitt is welcoming Louisville in an old Big East matchup.
Miss the old Big East. That's when it all really fell apart, when the Big East crumbled. I think that was the nexus point.
Yep.
However, we got to get on with the show. Can't reminisce too much. We might talk about that in the off season.
Yeah.
Anyway, Indiana, after that huge win against Illinois, is going to go on the road versus a very tough Iowa team. I think this game is going to be a telling game for Indiana. Can they keep that momentum? Will they ride a little bit too high, fly a little too close to the sun? I personally think they're going to be fine. Signetti's a heck of a coach. I think he's going to keep them focused. And then Mississippi hosts Tennessee in the SEC opener for the Bulldogs, Mississippi State, that is. So that should be an interesting matchup that will definitely shake up our group rankings for Dynasty Dummies.
Absolutely. I mean, like we've been saying, our middle of the pack here, a lot of them are about to start playing each other in conference play and whatnot. So you're going to see a lot more of these teams that are ranked either completely drop out or drop a couple spots, move up a lot. I mean, these games, we're getting into the thick of it now in the middle of the season coming up, so a lot of rankings will be changing. But we're going to jump into some group of 5 matchups that we're going to look into. The first one being undefeated North Texas tries to continue their winning ways versus South Alabama. That should be a good game. South Alabama did give Tulane a little run for their money. And then Navy is going to try and start 4-0 yet again as they take on Rice at home.
Both of those should be fun games, but not as fun as the game that I'm going to be locked into. JMU is going to open up Sunbelt play against Georgia Southern Saturday, 1:30. You know I'll be there watching. Well, not there, but I'll be on the couch watching. And then in another Virginia matchup, ODU is going to host Liberty. Flames back-to-back weeks against some tough Virginia opponents, this time on the road, looking to get right. However, it's going to be a tough one on the road against ODU, who just absolutely punished Virginia Tech.
ODU has looked like a sneaky good team, and they continue playing like this. They could maybe get a shout for the playoff. You never know. So if they can keep balling out like they have, you got to keep an eye out for them. But another team you got to keep an eye out for coming out of the American, which is extremely strong this year, is what we're looking like, is Memphis. They are right now, I would say, probably your favorite to win the American and possibly get that G5 spot in the playoff. They are going to FAU to try and get to 5-0 for the first time since 2019, while Boise State, still in the mix, is traveling to App State.
I really enjoy this Boise State-App State matchup. It's going to become harder and harder for Group of 5 teams to schedule Power 4 opponents. It's going to be important for these best Group of 5 teams, the Boise States, the App States, to play each other if they can, because they have to be able to build that resume. So I really like this matchup. I hope to see it keep going. So excited to see that one in Boone. Should be a good game. App State slipped up a couple times this year, but they are never an easy out as someone who has had their heart ripped out from them before. Illinois, though, is trying to bounce back after having its heart ripped out at a home game versus USC. This USC team's looked really sharp, and I'm not sure if Illinois can bounce back after the beating they just took. It's hard to. They will be at home, but I don't know if they can get it done.
It's extremely hard to bounce back the slightest bit after a beating like that, because the mindset that you have to go into you have to quickly forget that you just lost by 53, and now you got to go turn around and play another ranked team that's pretty hot right now. So they had to have quickly moved on, and we'll have to see if they do. But another bounce back we're looking at here is Cal is looking to bounce back after an embarrassment against, and they will be playing San Diego State.
Getting shut out by San Diego State is not a good look. 34-zip. Cal had a pretty favorable schedule. I will not be referring them to the Calgorithm any longer, as they took that L, and they lose the title until they get back on their winning ways. They do have a favorable schedule, so they're not out of it, but it's a wake-up call and maybe a little bit more of a look onto the kind of team they're going to be this year. In another game that's going to be huge in the Big 12, Utah's going to travel to Morgantown, take on WVU after that loss to Texas Tech. They're looking to right the ship. I just wanted to correct myself. In our recap video, I mentioned that this matchup was the first ever televised game in the 1965 Liberty Bowl. It was the 1964 Liberty Bowl. That is my bad. 1 year off. I apologize. I will try to make sure my facts are correct this time.
Shame on
you. I know. I'm tearing the family apart.
We can't be doing this, man. We're gonna have to call it quits soon here if you can't get it right.
I will do a better job fact checking my fun facts when I have them.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure I have messed up quite a bit as well. So it is what it is at this point, but. Another team that's looking to bounce back here, NC State gets Virginia Tech in a get-right game after they had lost to Duke, which I was a little surprised about. But nonetheless, you can never count out anyone. Duke is still a good team in my book, so we'll have to see if they can get the bounce back. And then, of course, the bounce back game that means the most. Tulane is going to Tulsa to try to get back in the win column. This is massive, opening up conference play here for them, and this is definitely a massive get-right game because Tulsa was the team that put Mike Gundy under, so they could very much be a team to watch out for in the American as your sort of, I could say, like trap game or trap team sort of thing. So there's no such thing as easy in the American this year, or ever, I should say. So it's really a chance for them to bounce back after that embarrassing loss to Ole Miss. So,
guys, make sure your headphones are always fully charged before you start recording. Even if they say they're at 50%, don't trust it.
This is why we have wires.
I know, but then our friends made fun of me for having wired headphones, but not you for some reason.
They're not the ones behind the mic, so. I don't want to hear it from them. They don't know the ins and outs of this production. So,
well, it happens. Just like my rivalry with technology, there is a rivalry this weekend. New Mexico State is going to be battling New Mexico in the Rio Grande rivalry. New Mexico leads this one 74-35-5 all time. But you never know what's going to happen. Fun fact for this one that I know is true. They just built a new trophy that's essentially a giant smoker for this, so the winner has something awesome to play for. I think that's electric.
Sick.
Yeah,
that's pretty
awesome.
sick. I love the obscure trophies.
I know.
I hate it when it's just a normal thing. I want something where it's like I have to have it.
Yeah, that was the issue with JMU and Liberties. I was like, okay, it's great. It's the shape of Virginia, but it's just a glass plaque. Man, we should have been playing for like the Founding Fathers golden dentures or something. I don't know, something ridiculously absurd.
They should have just went and taken a piece of the mountain or something and literally just a rock. It's just a rock or something, a piece of the Blue Ridge. Literally.
A moonshine bottle would have been electric.
Oh, it would have been so good. But
Liberty
they can't have that on campus.
Yeah.
They can't have it on campus.
That's my bad. Oh, man. Why did
Us
and App State should have a moonshine one.
Something. It's got to be something.
Well, I hope this game's going to be fun, despite it might being lopsided all time. But we're going to jump into the must-watch games of the weekend here. These are our top games, the ones that you guys should not miss. Jumping right into it when TCU is going to travel to Arizona State Friday night at 9 p.m. This is going to be a huge Big 12 matchup. I think that both TCU and ASU are going to be teams that can end up in the Big 12 championship game. The thing I'm watching out for, though, is if Arizona State can play a complete game. They have yet to this season. When they lost to Mississippi State, they didn't. Even in their win against Baylor, Kenny Dillingham did say that they need to play a full game. That's going to be the difference maker in this one.
This, to me, will be a massive tell on ASU and how their season's going to go. I mean, this could quite literally end their season already with how it's been going so far and how they just have not looked like you said, a complete team where they just cannot seem to play from start to finish a collective game where it's just like there's always some interruption in there. And with the way that TCU's playing, I think it's going to be really tough for them too because TCU, this is their chance to solidify themselves as like we're a legit team here in the Big 12 this season. You have to consider us. So this is going to be a massive game for the Big 12, and it could absolutely decide who ends up coming out on top in either a conference championship game or for a slot in the conference championship game. But exactly. to go over some key players here, we had mentioned earlier the TCU quarterback Josh Hoover, who is playing really well this season, throwing 68% completion, 1,000 yards, 11 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. But great stat line from your quarterback early into the season, can't argue against it. And then, of course, Arizona State quarterback Sam Leavitt. He's got to look like his old self from the previous season where he was playing lights out and just absolutely making this team a menace.
This is a game that's going to come down to which quarterback wins the duel. We talked about Josh Hoover earlier. He's been lights out. Sam Leavitt is an incredible talent as well. So these two guys, I think, are who are going to end up figuring out who wins this game. But as always, Tony, who do you got in this one and why?
I think I'm going to go TCU, but it's going to I'm going to say it again. It's going to be a close one. I think Arizona State has improved. I think they have looked better. But, again, it's going to come down to can they play that complete game where TCU, I think, will, and they usually do. And they're just going to get it done because they're going to have a better collective team performance. So I'll say TCU, I'll say 27-20.
I like it. I think I'm going to have to ride with you. I think TCU is just playing better football right now. I think this is going to be a huge statement win for them that really helps them catapult up a little bit closer. I think it's going to be a tight one. I really do like Arizona State. I think it's a game they really need to win, but I think TCU is the team I'm going to have to stick with here. I think it's going to be somewhere in that 30 to 31, 27-ish range for sure.
I want to give a quick shout out for Arizona State. Look out for him, Jordan Tyson, their receiver. The dude's an absolute baller. If TCU contains him, I think it's going to be it could be a whitewash because he is probably their most effective weapon outside of the quarterback. So keep an eye out for him because he has been balling this season. But, if TCU obviously knows that, so I'm sure they'll do their best to try and mitigate him as much as possible. But moving on to another big game, which I think, could be a little sleeper here for an upset watch. Ohio State going to Washington on Saturday at 3:30. Washington is undefeated this year, and some people are arguing, should they be considered to get a number next to the name?
Do I hear you right in saying that you are taking the upset?
Let's go over it first, and then we'll see.
All right. I agree with you. I think this is a sneaky one. Saw a lot of Ohio State fans learning about sailgating, which Washington fans do out on the boat. That is incredible. I also learned about this. This is going to be a tough one, though. Traveling to the West Coast, Pacific Northwest, never easy to play in that Washington environment. Ohio State needs to get a fast start after this bye week compared to the slow start they had versus Ohio 2 weeks ago. I think that's going to be a difference maker. If they start out sluggish, that crowd is going to start roaring, and Washington's going to thrive off of it. That is Absolutely. A good football team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've seen recently. It was Joel Klatt. He has been saying he was extremely unpleased with any voters, AP voters, or anybody specifically that does not have Washington in their ballots because they are.
He's calling me out.
Yeah, me too. I was like, damn, I don't even have them. I was like, damn, I didn't even realize. Like, it just goes to show. I mean, there's a lot of teams out there, a lot to consider. So I'm definitely going to keep my eye on them now, especially this weekend when they're playing Ohio State. And can they contain and make Julian Sand look like a person who doesn't have that experience? Although he's doing pretty good this year with throwing 78.9%, 779 yards. 8 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. I think the big key for them is limiting those turnovers. Do not give Washington those extra possessions because those can definitely come back to bite you, especially on the road. That crowd would be rocking if they can create some sort of early turnover.
I agree with you. It's going to be huge if they can limit those turnovers because they don't want to give any chance for Washington to get in the game. Someone that they're going to need to limit from Washington, though, is running back Jonah Coleman. He's averaging 6.8 yards a carry, 9 touchdowns on the year, 350 yards, and he's added another 150 yards and a touchdown through the air. This guy can do it all. He is going to be a key player that they need to look to contain. If he can get going, it is going to be a long day for OSU. And that's going to jump me right into my pick. I'm going to steal your thunder. I don't think they're going to be able to contain him. I don't think OSU's looked fantastic this year. I think Washington's going to pull this one off in a surprising upset for this week. Maybe not to Joe Klatt, though.
Yeah, it's such a rough one because I don't like Ohio State. I never have, never will. But they're just such a good team, and it's really hard to go against them. But I'm gonna go against them. I gotta go with the Huskies in a very close game here. I think they start quicker than Ohio State does. They take advantage of being at home, and they just shell shock the Buckeyes there.
I did not expect you to ride with me here. I love it. That jumps us
love upsets.
That is just a great feeling when you're riding with the upset. Jumping into this next game, SEC showdown. Louisiana State University, LSU, travels to Ole Miss at 3:30 Eastern. It is going to be a huge game for that bunch. The SEC teams, people are still trying to figure out who are actually good, who compared to the rest aren't. The biggest thing from this game is Ole Miss quarterback Trinidad Chambliss, who's coming in for Austin Simmons. He has been named the starter for this week. Not a guarantee for the rest of the season, but he has looked incredible when he has taken over. 42 of 46, 660 yards, 3 touchdowns, another 174 and 2 touchdowns in his 2 games starting. He's been great. I think he's added a whole new spark to this Ole Miss offense.
They look unstoppable with him under center right now. I mean, from what I was watching last week when they were just dismantling the Tulane defense, I mean, that dude looked calm, composed, and just looked like he had nothing to lose. So they, like you said, they look like they're a whole new team with him under center. And it's nothing against Austin Simmons because he was playing pretty good before he had gotten hurt. But it looks like that this team has taken a jump with Chambliss at the quarterback spot. So I think, honestly, it's his job to lose. I think Lane Kiffin would probably think that as well. He just doesn't want to, stir anything possibly. Because like we had said before, where he had said that if Austin Simmons was healthy, he was going to be the starter. So I don't know if this is possibly relaying that he is not fully healthy. But it's also hard to just go against that. Chambliss is just playing lights out right now, and you just can't take that hot hand away. You're going to be at home against an LSU team that hasn't looked fantastic this season. Their offense just can't seem to get going. So if Ole Miss can really limit that offense and keep it, keep Garrett Nussmeier under check, who has also looked quite lackluster to his highly touted preseason expectations of, should be a surefire Heisman favorite and was still very much, I would say, a first round pick at this point. But it hasn't looked like it, so we'll have to see if Ole Miss can just completely put an end to this LSU hype on Saturday.
I agree that it really comes down to if that LSU offense can get rolling. It's going to come down to Nunsmeyer. They got to find their rhythm. The defense has been pretty good, but their offense has got to figure things out. I think it's going to be a close game, though.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's going to be a close one, but I want to know, who do you got?
I think I'm going to go with the Tigers on this one. I do think that I think their defense is just going to be a little bit too much for Ole Miss. I do think that this is a Trinidad Chambliss is going to have a much harder time moving the ball against LSU. And I think that's going to be enough, and LSU is going to figure out their offense and play a more complete game while being able to limit the fast attack of Ole Miss.
You make a great point about their defense. It's going to be, really hard for Trinidad Chambliss to get going, but I think he unlocks that defense. I think he's just going to ball out and continue this hot streak. I'm taking Ole Miss at home to pull off the upset against LSU.
Upsetting here. I'm not sure if I can agree with it 100%. I've been notoriously low on Ole Miss. They just entered my rankings. I think this is going to be too steep of a competition for them. I don't think they're going to be able to get it done, despite how great they looked last week against a good Tulane team. I think LSU is going to come out with something to prove.
We'll just have to wait and see on Saturday. It's going to be a good one. We got some great games this weekend, dude. It's absurd.
It's going to be great.
Moving into another pretty big SEC showdown here, where we got Auburn traveling to College Station to play Texas A&M at 3:30 on Saturday.
That one's going to be a fun game to watch. I think this might be the sleeper game of the week. I think the bye will be good for them to regroup after that emotional road win in South Bend for A&M, that is. It is always hard to come back locked in after a huge high. Look at WVU after that Pitt win. I think that bye week's going to be huge for A&M. And I think that Auburn needs to look strong bouncing back from OU. But I'm gonna rip it early and say I'm going with Texas A&M on this one. I don't think I need to hear everything to know that that's who I'm going with. I think Marcel Reed's going to be the difference maker, and he's going to outduel Jackson Arnold for sure.
This is where we're going to agree here. Just same with you. Just go straight into it. I'm taking Texas A&M, and I don't think it's going to be particularly that close. They have just looked like a reborn team right now, and I think that this is where the bye will actually help them. I had said in one of our early episodes for Notre Dame that the bye was going to hurt when they played Texas A&M, because I just am not a fan of the early buys like that, where you play one game and you immediately go into a bye. I think it can ruin momentum. But for something like this, where they came off that emotional win on the road, they get a bye week to really collect themselves and be like, all right, we're locking into conference play here. We can do this. And then Auburn coming off of a bad loss. I wouldn't say bad loss, but just a loss that really stings against Oklahoma in the previous week. But I'm also looking for Marcel Reed to really unlock that deep ball. I think if he can find that accuracy and, create those big plays, I think they could run away with it. And also, got to give a shout out to one of the greatest names in Texas A&M receiver, Concepcion. He is a baller, and if Marcel Reed can connect with him early, I could see Texas A&M just running away with it pretty early.
Well, another game we're going to agree on. I think you're spitting heat right now. I think A&M's going to start hot and just not let up the gas. I just think Auburn's going to be a little outgunned. Marcel Reed does need to show some good accuracy against a Auburn secondary that does like to take some chances at getting the ball. So that's going to be a big thing, but both of us taking A&M here. Jumping into this next game, Arizona, a sneaky 4-0 team against Iowa State on the road, Saturday, 7 p.m. Eastern. Iowa State's kind of skirted by for the most part this year. They've stayed in our personal top of the rankings, but this Arizona team is good. They're 4-0, and that's never a mistake, so they're going to need to play a complete game to get by them.
I'm with you in that. I think Iowa State is a team I'm going to keep a close eye on because They're staying high in my rankings, but I really need them to prove that they deserve to be that high now. We've been like
I'm
this
going to
past
have
week
other
we did
teams
with
potentially start skipping them because
exactly
they look better,
Yeah, exactly what we're doing with LSU right now, where other teams are looking better, so they are sliding. I think it's going to come to that point for Iowa State where I'm going to need a very convincing win, and this is their chance here against a pretty decent Arizona team. Like you said, 4-0, you cannot be a mistake. We're too far into the season at this point where wins are very rarely mistakes. They are outright earned. So it's going to be a good one here. I think Arizona could absolutely cause an issue for Iowa State with their quarterback and Noah Fifta, I believe. Probably butchering that. But he is great quarterback, been playing good. 7-12 through the air, 6 touchdowns with 3 on the ground as well. If Iowa State can find a way to keep a cap on him and make sure he doesn't break out, I think they'll have a pretty decent chance because their defense is very good this year in Iowa State. So it's going to be a good one to see here and see if Iowa State can really solidify themselves as a top team.
I think it's going to come down to, will Arizona continue playing that clean football they have? They have not committed a turnover, and that is partially because how well their quarterback's been playing. They forced 8, so very opportunistic team here. If they continue that trend, Iowa State's going to be in for a long game. Rocco Beck, their quarterback, he's got to continue to play sharp. He's thrown for 7 touchdowns and 1 interception, added 2 more rushing touchdowns as well, 860 yards. Has looked sharp, but he's going to need to continue that, or Arizona is going to have a good chance to make something happen this game.
I'm with you there. I think it's going to be a close one, but I think I'm going to have to go with Iowa State here. I think they'll find a way to contain them, possibly force a turnover, but that's going to be a major key, like you had said. If Arizona can keep that ball in their hands when they're supposed to, it could cause some issue for Iowa State, but I think they'll have enough to get it done, and I think they win by, I'm going to say, about 10.
I do not think they're going to be able to pull off a 10-point win, let alone a win. I think Arizona is going to get this done on the road. I think Iowa State's a team that has not looked sharp enough to start out without a loss. I think Arizona's going to shock a lot of people. They're a good team. They've been playing really well. Turnover-free football is always great to do. It's going to be tough going on the road, but I got to disagree with you. I think Iowa State is in trouble come Saturday night.
No, I love a good upset, especially one on the road. So I would not be mad to see Arizona pull it off and really prove that they're a legit team and that Iowa State doesn't deserve to be as high as they are. So moving on to the next game here with a team that also has a lot to prove, a massive SEC showdown here and our primetime game on Saturday, Alabama traveling to Georgia.
This is going to be a great game. Alabama, maybe they should be ranked by us. Maybe we're just SEC haters, as you saw earlier this video. But if they beat Georgia, there's no denying them. Alabama's a great team. They have the talent. It's really a chance for them to prove that week 1 is not who they are. Both these teams had bye weeks, so it's really going to be a tough matchup. They're going to be well rested.
It's going to be a good one. Like you said, this is the writing all over the wall for Alabama, where this is where we prove ourselves to the rest of the world, and especially the Dynasty Dumbies, that we are a legit team. Ever since they lost that Florida State game, I've had them unranked, not even close to ranking them again. But if you can come in and beat a Georgia team that I have ranked 4, you can absolutely just change my mind and be like, all right, maybe week 1 possibly could have been, I don't want to say a fluke because Florida State looked great, but definitely wasn't the team that they thought they were, and this is their chance to really prove it. And it's going to come down to, I think it's going to come down to your typical defensive game, which defense comes out on top. Georgia's quarterback, Gunnar Stockton, is playing very sound football right now. Hasn't looked, stellar by any sort of means, but hasn't looked bad at all. So that's what you really want in a quarterback, is just enough. He's going to do enough that'll get it done for you. And same with Bama quarterback Ty Simpson. Since that Week 1 game, they have looked very steady at that position. And there's a lot of question marks about him, but he's definitely looked like he has improved. So I think it's going to come down to which defense can cause the turnovers and cause the early mishaps.
I know we usually are always talking about these key players, and I do agree with you. I think that's going to be – defense is going to be the name of the game. But I'm going to call out a key coach. I think this game is really going to come down to the coaching because of that bye week I had mentioned. And I got to give the edge to Kirby Smart on this one. I think he's probably the best coach in the country. I think the lights might be too bright for Caleb DeBoer at Alabama. I know I wouldn't have wanted to fill the shoes of Nick Saban. I think DeBoer's a great coach. I just think I don't know if anyone could have succeeded filling in for Nick Saban. I mean, he's probably the greatest coach to have ever to have coached. And I think Kirby is just going to be able to outcoach any scheme DeBoer comes up with here.
Yeah, Kirby is. I would agree with you. I think he's probably the best in the business right now in the college level.
I guess that gives away. I'm going with Georgia.
Yeah, I mean, I would assume. But, I mean, I'm probably going to have to ride with you here. I think if the game was in Alabama, I might, say something different. But I think going to Georgia after the bye weeks, both of them have. I'm with you where Kirby Smart is just going to quite literally outsmart Kalen DeBoer. It's just going to come down to that, and he's extremely good on the schemes and can figure it out and look for that defense to be extremely aggressive. So I'm going to go Georgia here. I think it'll be, a close game. You never know with these two games. You can never tell with these two teams specifically, but I'm going to definitely have to go with Georgia here, and I think they, kind of pull away a little bit towards the end.
I think that's a good outlook of the game. I think they're going to get the job done. Kirby always has those guys ready to play fast. They love going fast down to Georgia.
They love their fast stuff.
But we want to highlight the last game we have here. Probably the matchup of the game where College Game Day is going to be at. Oregon on the road to Penn State in what's a top 5 matchup for the Dynasty Dummies. This is going to be a huge one for this season from this point until we get the playoff rankings. This is going to be a key game, I think.
It's going to be absolutely massive, especially with our criteria in it, where these head-to-head matchups can absolutely change everything. Depending on who wins this, could shake up a lot of stuff, seeing as they're both top 5. It's going to be a good one here. I'm a little surprised. Penn State being 3.5-point favorites. I thought
at home,
it would be.
I think is the.
Yeah, I understand being at home. I think it's supposed to be their. It's not their whiteout game, is it?
No, I actually think people are saying their whiteout game is going to be when Indiana goes later in the season.
Okay. Yeah, see, I didn't think so because I just saw Oregon's uniforms today, and guess what? They're fire again. Surprise, surprise to no one. But it's one of those games that is just so massive. I mean, it was like last season with Oregon playing Ohio State somewhat early in the season. This is just a massive game. This is a chance for Penn State to really – I think this game is – in my opinion, I think this game does more for Penn State than it does Oregon. I think Oregon is a team that has flown a little bit at the beginning of the season. They flew under the radar. We all knew they would be good, but the way that they have been winning games is like, whoa, like maybe they are a lot better than we thought. And Penn State had these massive expectations, I believe. A lot of people, always do, but especially this season because they have all the talent in the world. They have their quarterback in Drew Aller, who's supposed to be a godsend, albeit, and carry this team, even though the guy who transferred is playing better than him. Albeit, doesn't matter. The two really good quarterbacks going at it, obviously with Oregon's being Dante Moore, who's playing pretty lights out lately and has been all season. So it's gonna be a close one here, man.
I agree. This is going to be a really good game. I think there's going to be fireworks, but I do think that it could get out of hand one way or another potentially. I think it could potentially be an Illinois-Indiana situation where you get a matchup of top teams and one just proves that they're at a different level. I don't know if it's going to be quite as ugly as the Indiana win, but I think it could go one way or another. I'm curious to know, Tony, which way do you think this one's going to go?
I am going to go with the Ducks. I think that they have enough to get it done. I don't trust James Franklin. He usually cannot get it done in the big games. I just looked it up because I knew the stat. I couldn't remember the exact numbers. His record against AP top 10 teams is 4-20.
Well, that's four more wins than I got in the top 10.
So I'm just saying, like, he has his chance to really, prove that he can do it on the big stage against the big team. But I think that Oregon just has it all from top to bottom. They're one of the most complete teams in the nation, and I think they go into a hostile environment and get it done.
I like what you're putting down. I think Dante Moore is an incredible player, and there's a great coaching staff at Oregon. But I think this home field advantage is going to be too much. I think Penn State's going to get it done, and James Franklin's going to get that elusive fifth finger ring for his top 10 wins. I know you were kind of trashing Drew Aller a little bit earlier. I think he's going to play well. I think this is the first time we've mentioned him on the podcast, which is a shame. I do think he's a good quarterback. I think he's going to get the job done. I think Happy Valley is going to be coming alive to feast on Oregon, and it's going to be a hard day for the Oregon offense to communicate. I think it's going to be a game that is tight. Like I said, it could get out of hand. No one expected that Indiana game too, but I think Penn State's going to squeak this one out. I don't think that James Franklin's going to blow it. I think he can get it done for Pennsylvania football.
It's going to be a fun one. I know for sure I will be glued to the couch watching it. I'm going to try and watch. I'm finally off on a Saturday, so I'm going to watch as much as I can. So I look for a lot of insight when we do our recap episode next week. But let us know what you guys think. Let us know what games we missed or what games you guys are really looking forward to. What upsets are you thinking that are going to happen? Could be the ones that I think, the ones that Hunter thinks, the ones that we just totally didn't agree on at all. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Dynasty Dumbies. Feel free to follow our personal Twitter accounts at Hunter_Shaw5 and at CronyTony20. And we will see you all after this insane weekend for the recap show.
And speaking of the weekend, first game has concluded. The Army Black Knights fall to East Carolina Pirates. The Army, I guess, is stronger or not as strong as a bunch of Pirates. But look forward to talking to you all next week. Enjoy your weekend.
See ya.